Hello and welcome back to Authentically Shawna. I'm joined by my mom. Hi. This is like a bittersweet day. It was our last day on the cruise, but it was action-packed. So it was really wonderful. This was a unique day in terms of there were two different towns to see today. So the included excursion was to do a walking tour of a town called Mainz. What I really liked about this town again was you roll out of bed, you have breakfast, you step off the ship, and you step 5 minutes into the town. Like there's no bus to take, there's no big transportation. You just walk straight into the heart of the town. And I have to say, this is one of my favorite towns that we visited because of the size. It's just like my favorite size town where you have a beautiful market. They call it Market Square. So during the regular year, not that it's not regular, during not Christmas,
During the
Market
regular
Square,
calendar year.
they have a Market Square and they have a farmer's market. But because the Christmas markets are in Market Square, the farmer's market is then behind the main square. We happened to be there on a Saturday, so we got the best of both worlds. So we had a Christmas market and a farmer's market, which is just two of my favorite things. And the other, I would say, really interesting part about this town is this is where Gutenberg was from. And this is where Gutenberg invented the printing press. He did that at 26 years old. Unfortunately, the museum was closed. They're making a new museum, so we didn't get to see the museum. But when Germans like a theme, they really like a theme. So this town has Gutenberg everything. They have Gutenberg Square, Gutenberg train station. They have a Gutenberg statue, which we were told they have no idea what Gutenberg looked like. So they just picked what they thought he possibly looked like, and that is what the statue of in the middle of the square. We also had our own little fun side excursion. My dad had said he wanted a sweater from the Christmas markets. That doesn't really exist. There's not really a ton of sweaters. So what I love about this size town is that you can be in the center of the town and there's department stores, but there's tiny shops. They said there was about 200,000 people in that town. That's like my ideal size town, I think. So we went to the department store called Galleria, and guess who we should meet but
Santa Claus.
Santa Claus. And
He's a jolly old elf here. He carries a big sack, and in his big sack, he hands out chocolate. So he reaches in his bag and wishes you a Merry Christmas and hands you a piece of chocolate.
he does it on one knee too. He gets down on one knee, opens his sack, and hands you a piece of chocolate. Presents you a piece of chocolate. It's so magical. It just feels like, wow, this is Christmas. What did you think of the German department store? They're not like ours.
They're not like ours, but they're like ours.
Right.
You can definitely tell you're in another country. But at the same time, they have the women's departments, the men's department, the cosmetics department, well kept, beautiful. Signs are in German, so it's always fun to try to figure out which words are similar enough, or you can just look around and you can figure out what department you're in.
Unlike our department stores, they have a whole department for chocolate. They had an entire section dedicated to chocolate. I mean, we're missing out in America, I think. We don't have a department of chocolate at our department stores. So we had some market food because we were on a double excursion. So we didn't have a ton of time for a sit-down lunch, or we didn't want to make time for a sit-down lunch. We wanted to really explore the town and the markets. And so we went and had some market food. I had a pork roll, which was delicious. And my mom had nothing like we've ever had before. So they have flattened noodles called spatzel. So it was spatzel with sauerkraut. What did you think?
It was delicious. Once again, German just has that different spice and seasonings, and it was warm and it's cold and it had been rainy and it just fills you up. It's a hearty dish.
It was wonderful. So we went back to the ship, and this time we got on a bus. So we went to the town on the other side of the river. So we started out in Mainz, and then we went over to Wiesbaden. Now, Wiesbaden is one of the wealthiest towns in Germany. And what brings them their wealth, you might ask? Well, Frankfurt is the city of bankers. Wiesbaden is the city of the insurance brokers. So this town is, I think he said, one out of every 6 people you come across the street is a millionaire. So they have the highest concentration of millionaires anywhere in Germany. And I think it's wealthy not only in terms of capital, but in terms of resources. This is a town that has natural hot springs to it that literally come out of the earth. They have no idea how or why, but they have hot springs fountains all over town, and the water is free. I mean, you would need to have glass. We unfortunately didn't have any glassware on us, but they have fountains of this water that is available to the public. And our guide said he comes, grabs a big bucket, and he cooks with it, uses it in all sorts of cleaning and cooking. Like basically, this water is life in this town. And they have steam vents that come out. You know, if you've ever been in New York City, how there's vents and you have no idea what's coming out of those vents. Well, we know what's coming out of these vents. It's hot water. I thought what was also really interesting in this town was they have in their middle part of their park a fountain, I'll call it, of sorts. It's not really a fountain because when this steam from the salt from the it is salty water, has a lot of minerals in it, hits the air, the water evaporates and it leaves behind some very interesting minerals. Now, these minerals are different colors. They start out with like tans through browns. So again, this was a Roman conquered town. And our guide had said the Romans were quite vain. The Roman soldiers were quite vain and they did not want to go gray. And so what the townspeople, so people who weren't Roman who had then come into the area, they needed to sell goods and make money. Now, the Romans had everything. What they did not have, though, was a way to change their hair color. So what they did was they took soap and then they would scrape and get the color from the natural minerals and they would turn it into dye. And our guide showed us, he dyed the hair on his hands. You can still use it today. Nature's hair dye. He also said it was great for healing wounds. It's just a town where everyone is really healthy, I would say. He said they have a lot of citizens over 100 years old who live independently. And one of the ways that they're able to do that is because they have a town bathing spa. I guess spa is like the word we would use, but it's not really a spa. You go and you soak in these minerals. Unfortunately, we didn't get to do that this trip, but we need to go back. I really want to go. Just it didn't, timing wise, didn't work out. But he said his neighbor is over 100 years old and still lives independently. And she comes every month to the thermal spa and soaks in the water. So it was very interesting to see this town.
They also said they put it on wounds and it helps heal. Or if they're sick, they just grab some of the water and drink more of it, cook with it more, or put that clay
Yeah, it's mineral.
mineral on a wound and it heals very quickly.
So very, very interesting. And it's interesting because we went to towns right across from each other and they could not be more different. We were talking about this because we walked around the market in Wiesbaden as well. And we were just we were doing like the prices right, comparing prices. And in Mainz, which is literally across a bridge, things were a lot less expensive than in Wiesbaden. It's so interesting how you go to a very bougie part of Germany and the Christmas markets even cost more. Um, so we definitely got to enjoy the juxtaposition of the two. And then we got on the boat pretty early because we had to make our way pretty far up to Cologne overnight. We had a great last day. It was so neat to get to see 2 towns in one day back to back. We hadn't done that on the trip before. So I'm so glad that was how we ended our trip.
Both had beautiful churches, though, and they were spectacular. Neither of those churches had been destroyed during the war, and we got to go in them and see just these beautiful churches. They're the center of both towns that we were in that day, and you can find them. That is your place to go when you're walking in town. Find the church, And then from there, that gave me all my directions of where I needed to go. These churches are just so beautiful and just find them. And we knew how to get back to our bus every time by following the beautiful cathedrals. It's my 2 cents to add to that.
Okay, I love it. All right. Well, we are signing off and we will do our final episode tomorrow.